Mike Costa show. There's no way anyone believes this shit about the COVID origins, right? Like, there's no one who still believes that this shit came from the bat, right? Right? Like, we've moved past this, right? We're ready to accept that this shit was in the lab. Can we can we just accept this yet? That this shit came from the lab. Okay. Like, I was getting into it today with someone who told me that, oh no, it couldn't have been the lab because the Wuhan market was 30 minutes away from the lab. And the actual study literally said it's highly unlikely that the scientists would have went to that lab because it was a half hour away. How the fuck do these studies know where these scientists went after work? Like, it was highly unlikely that me and my coworkers got ghetto Korean food in North Philly one time, but the fucking bulgogi slapped. Okay, like how the fuck does anyone in these studies know where these scientists were, like at all times, that they couldn't possibly have went to this wet market? And furthermore, if your wife was cheating on you, if your wife was cheating on you, right, and her ex-boyfriend who lives across the country just so happens to be staying at a hotel a half hour from her work, and previously she was lying to you, like how they were lying about gain of function, and she was misappropriating assets like they were, and how they were maybe she was failing security tests, like the lab was failing security tests. You know, if all this stuff was happening, and she didn't come home one weekend. She didn't come home one weekend. Just don't know where the fuck she was at. Didn't come home. You wouldn't at least have a question? Uh, hey, you know, I saw your fucking ex-boyfriend just so happened to be in a hotel a half hour away from us when you went missing. Can you explain that? Okay. If a fucking pandemic shows up a half hour away from the fucking pandemic store, from the fucking pandemic Toys R Us. No one has any questions about that. You're just like, it could have happened anywhere across mainland China. Look at a fucking map of mainland China. Okay, it's fucking as big as America, basically. This fucking like I wish I had some fucking producer who could pull this, but you know, look at a fucking map of mainland China and tell me how big it is. And the pandemic just so happened to show up at a wet market next to the pandemic store, next to where they're doing the pandemic research. Okay, and people have to be told this, like like certain people in the population have to be, I guess, convinced that this is a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like they can't just see for themselves that this makes no fucking sense. They like rely on like CNN and like New York Times and like a doctor, an epidemiologist, fucking they rely on like these people and like these institutions and these degrees and like these, experts to shape reality for them. But in any other instance, like how we were talking about before, uh, like how we've talked about before about like if your ex-wife, if something like that was happening, right? In any other instinct, these people would be able to ascertain for themselves and make a judgment, or even if they weren't making a judgment, they would ask questions. You know what I mean? So like it's one thing for you to say, I don't know. I can't 100% for certain to say where it is. It came from. It came from a lab, but you have to recognize what you're saying. You're saying that there's a chance. You're saying that there's a chance that that the United States government directly funded the research, the execution, the planning, the implementation of COVID-19 with the assistance of the Communist Republic of China, and that shit spread and it killed like 7 million people and fucking like we printed like what like fucking across the world probably 15 trillion, maybe like 12 trillion, like 15 trillion, something like that. I might be a little off. It could be 10, but whatever. We printed all this money. 7 million people died. And the United States government did this. Okay. That's option one. And option two is that it came from natural selection. But you don't understand here, right? It came from a bat. It's all just a coincidence. It's all just a fucking coincidence that they were studying it. The hang cleavage site, wherever the fuck that is, the hang cleavage site where it's not supposed to naturally occur or something in nature. The way it's spreading, the way it mutates so fast, the way fucking all the initial studies of this thing that China had the initial samples went missing. The way uh, it affects some people differently. If every like what fucking disease have you ever heard of that affects people completely different? One of my boys, he's my age, he's 29. He had he his he's three generations living in this house, right? It's him, his brothers, his mom, and his grandma. So they all get COVID, right? His grandma's like 75. She bodies it. His mom's probably what, like 50, something around there, bodies it. His little brother, 24, bodies it. His older brother, 32, bodies it. And my boy was literally in the hospital with a 105 fever. Fucking, like, literally in the hospital. What other fucking disease in your life, like, you know, was this like? Like, even like, I'm watching Modern Family, and even how they fucking even how they portray diseases in Modern Family, it's the whole family